Hello everybody, this is Supermetroidfan here, and seeing as how well the D&D podcast has done, I've decided to help out new players who are interested in playing Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 with the creation of a character sheet. Might be hard to see, but still. In order to do this, you're going to need just a few materials. You're going to need an obvious 3.5 D&D character sheet, or you can use a piece of paper, whichever you prefer. I personally would go with the character sheet. I have a lot of them, so it makes sense for me to do this. A pencil, mechanical, or wooden, your choice, whatever. You do not want to do these in pen, because you will be leveling up quite a lot in D&D, and you'll also get a lot of stat changes, and if you're a new player, then you might not like something you've done on the start of your character sheet, and you want to redo it. You will also need the standard, nerd set of dice with a d20, a d8, two d10s for percentage rolls, a d4, d12, and d6. When creating a brand new character, however, you need more than just one d6. You'll need an additional 3 others, which I have right here. So, the first thing to do in D&D to pick your character is to decide from the list of different character choices. In 3.5, there are quite a few choices. Mainly, you can really choose depending on if you would want something such as magic. Like, there are classes that will have a lot of magic use, but they don't do much melee. The real choices in D&D 3.5 are the Wizard, Sorcerer, Rogue, Bard, Druid, Cleric, Monk, Ranger, Fighter, Paladin, and Barbarian. When I first played, I decided I'd try out a Barbarian, because Barbarians are quite heavy on melee. They're the big meat shield guys, and we didn't have anybody else who was going to be a big, heavy melee guy. In your party, if you're going to play with other party members, which you really should in D&D, make sure you converse with them and decide how your party should be. You should definitely have one heavy magic user, a heavy melee user, a character in the middle, such as a Bard, Rogue, or Druid, or something of that kind, and maybe a backup fighter, or even a Ranger who is specializing in using the bow. Right here I have my original Barbarian sheet. I had given him away to death in order for me to become a DM. I'm also a Dungeon Master in D&D. I haven't been doing it very long, but I am trying really hard, and I'd say I'm doing pretty good so far. I have learned how to create many characters doing this, so I'm getting more used to this, and since I've been doing this a lot, I figured, hey, you know what, I'll do a YouTube tutorial to teach new players, because of how well the D&D podcast had done. So first thing you're going to do on your little character sheet that you have here, you guys can't see, is the top section, which basically wants you to do a character name, your player name, the person who's controlling character, the class and level, the race, alignment, deity, size, age, gender, height, weight, eye color, hair color, and skin color. Now, a character name, you can choose this yourself. I'm not going to have one. Player name, I'm not going to reveal my real name, so I'm just going to not even write that because I'll leave this as a blank template for anybody else. For a class, we are creating the first level, level 1, Barbarian, which is shortened to BAR, as you can see there. The race is going to be human, because humans are actually quite handy for first players. Alignment. Barbarians are restricted to alignment of, because in D&D, if you didn't know, there are alignments of neutral, lawful, chaotic on the first half, and then there's a second half, which is evil, good, and neutral. Barbarians are restricted to being neutral or chaotic. I will go with the classic chaotic, good alignment, because I like being a good guy. Deity. Barbarians don't always choose deities, however, one of the ones that is chosen is usually Cord, and his favorite weapon is a greatsword. Since we will not be really covering deities in this tutorial, I'm going to say none, leave it blank. The size. As a human, you are restricted to the medium size, which is kind of the standard size, takes up 1 cube, of a player space. So roughly this D12 would sit. The age, you can choose this for yourself. If you are playing, in a more adult setting, really about the age that a human would get whiskers on their chin is when the age they can drink or go to town on ladies. So feel free to choose your own age. You can be really young, which would make any sense, or you can be really old, which actually can give you some bonuses, but a lot of negatives. I'm going to go with, let's say, make him 19. He's going to be 19 years old. Gender. This can be dependent on who you are. If you're a female, go with the female setting. If you're a male, go with the male setting. There shouldn't be any cross-gendering in D&D, because that's just kind of weird. Not to mention, too, women have different choices in D&D as do we males do. The height, humans are usually in between 4 and 6 feet tall. I'm going to go with 6 foot 1 inch, just for the reasons of height. Weight, usually in medieval times, if you're really fat, you're well fed and royal, but barbarians are not really related to royalty in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to make him, let's say, because he's going to be muscle bound as well, 200 pounds. Big, heavy guy. Eye color, I will go with a brown. Hair color, I will also go brown. And if you can't tell by my skin color, I'm going to make him white. There's also a lot of racial segregarity in D&D. Not to be rude or anything, but it happens. Elves are usually named hippies. Dwarves are usually called stupid, etc. So, that's not racist at all. Okay, yeah, everyone in D&D is very racist, unless you make your character not as a trait. Now we come to one of the more confusing parts: these ability names and scores. These are known as Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. These boxes right here. There are 6 of them. Now the way the book, as the player's handbook, one of the 3 core books of 3.5 would tell you, which is how I'm going to do it, is you take 3d6s, you roll them together like so. I got a 2, a 3, oh, that's not a 6, and I got 3 2s and a 3. Now this is a low roll. What you're supposed to do is you take all these rolls and you ignore the lowest, so one of the 2s. So I would have rolled a 7, which, geez, that sucks. But I want to give you guys a good example character. So there's also another rule that they say where if any of your score points are 10 or below, you can re-roll. I would say if you get 10, that's when you shouldn't re-roll it, because 10 gives you no bonus or negatives. A 7 would give me a huge negative. Okay, here we go. This is something good. A 4, 6, and a 3. I get a 13. That's actually really nice. 13 gives you a +1 modifier to any of these, and the modifiers, we'll get into what they do later. But barbarians usually don't really need charisma, so I'm going to give him a 13 charisma so he gets a +1 on that. Ideally, too, in each class, each of these scores represent different things. As a barbarian, you're going to want a high strength score or a high, and possibly a high constitution, because constitution will give you more health. Strength makes your melee do more, and all barbarians are heavy melee fighters because of their innate ability of rage. So strength is the best choice to put your highest roll in. You can also choose to roll these one at a time and record them. I'm going to put them down as I get them. Well, actually, yeah, recording them is a better idea. Let me get a random piece of paper here. I'll keep the 13 in there, but I'll just write it down in case that doesn't get to be my highest one. And then you repeat this process a few different times for each score. This one's actually another good one. That is a 10. I will write that down. Now, ideally how it works is every 2 numbers represent a plus or negative 1 to your ability modifier. Oh wow, a set of 4s. That's an interesting one. Right there, look at that. 4, 4, 4. Huh, it's kind of funny. That's a 12. So, you know, example would be a 10 is the number that is basically the base of all of these modifiers. Oh, that's a nice roll. A score of 10 gives you no negatives and no positives. It basically gives you a no modifier, but it's good because you don't take any negatives on any of your rolls. Oh, that's kind of bad. And you still actually can do stuff with that score. It's not going to be complete balls to the wall bad. So, ideally, the highest thing you want is to get 3 6s for your roll, and do not lie in D&D. It'll only make the game too easy, and that's boring. If you roll too low, feel free to re-roll. So what did I get here? I think I got kind of high, actually. That's a 5, not a 6. Alright, that's another good one. And then by doing this, you also can just expand your average. Okay, so I rolled relatively good on this one. These are the numbers that I have rolled in total. I don't know if you can see them, but if you can manage to see these. So now what you must do after selecting all these rolls is decide where to put them. Now, like I said, Barbarian's main key is strength. So my highest roll was a 17. The 17 is going into strength, which gives me a +3. Dexterity. Dexterity is used to decide bow accuracy and also strength of it, and increases your armor class. Typically, Barbarians don't mind being hit with a high Constitution score, so I'm going to just hide on that one later. Constitution, Barbarians are very heavy meat shielders, and they often will take a lot of hits, so I'm going to make it so that he can take a lot of hits. Give him the 16, so he gets a +3. Intelligence. Barbarians are not book smart at all. This is what intelligence represents. Your standard smarts with books, like, you know, a huge algorithm problem or whatever for math. Barbarians, as traveling nomads, have almost nada in this. Therefore, you want to put your lowest into it, 10. Again, try not to have like a bunch of negatives, because then your character's gonna... You kind of want at least have 10s and everything, because then you're gonna be at least like not taking any negatives. Wisdom. This is general knowledge of the world. Barbarians will have this to a medium degree. You know, usually not that wise, but a lot of our key features of skills are within this set. So you kind of want to put one of your middle numbers in. Since I'm left with 2 12s, that's all I'm going to put in. And dexterity gets a 12 as well. Alright, so now that a barbarian has decided his key skill points, which you can see here, and as I've already said, every 2 points represents one modifier. So an 8 or 9, because their middle numbers get rounded down, a 9 will give you a -1, and so will an 8. And then a 7 and 6 will give you a -2, etc. So 10 gives you nothing, 12 will give you 1, 11 gives you nothing, 13 gives you 1, 14 gives you 2, 15 gives you 2, etc. It's pretty simple. Now, by taking these scores, this is basically how the class will now get started. Barbarian hit points. Well, let's not go into that yet. Now, barbarians have an ability called Rage. When they rage, they will take a negative to their armor class, making them slightly easier to hit, but their strength score increases by 2 and their constitution increases by 2 as well. However, the rage only lasts as long as the new constitution modifier. So since constitution goes up by +2, it means it becomes a 20 rather than the 16, so I get a 5 modifier. This is actually higher than my barbarian that I had created because I gave him a low constitution, unaware of that at first. And the strength score will get a +4 to its actual score number, so 17 becomes 21, and he gets a +5. So this is actually a pretty darn good barbarian. Basically, the length of the rage is dependent on the new modifier of the constitution times 2. So, since 16 gets a +4 to 20, which makes the modifier 3 to 5, this means that the rage lasts 10 rounds. I'm going to write that right here. So if you are following through with me on doing a barbarian, do your own modifiers, or if you would like, take my template. Let's see, your intelligence, dexterity, constitution, etc. Those are unaffected by any of these things. Only your strength and constitution are, and your armor class, which will go down by a -2. So beneath it, I write -2 in parentheses, so that way I can remember when I'm raging, I get a little bit easier to hit. Now for hit points, barbarians have a 12, a D12, one of these bad boys right here. They can roll up to 12, and the lowest they can go is 1. This is a D12, hexagons all around. Usually for level 1s, they will take a immediate, the highest roll you can get. So since we barbarians would have a 12 as a higher modifier, then we add our the way HP works. I'm sorry, I keep breaking myself. I'm kind of half awake right now. We get the highest possible roll we can get on our dice and add our constitution modifier. Every time you level up, it's the dice roll, which was a 2, which would be horrible for a barbarian, plus the constitution mod. In our DMing games, we have a rule with our DMs. We take our player rolls and then our DM rolls against them. So my DM, in example me, against my player rolled a 12, so I would take the highest possible roll. You don't have to do this in your games, but if you're a DM and you're listening, this is a good idea, since sometimes players can get real bad rolls as 2s. For HP also, there's a rule in our games where if you roll a 1, re-roll it. Ignore the 1. You never get 1s for HP. And since he has a constitution modifier before raging, which is what you will always use, the ones before raging first things is leveling up, is a 3, so I would get 15 hit points off the bank. That's pretty nice. Now, for armor class, that is decided by items that we will acquire through either selecting the starting package that is given to from player's handbook, or by going into all the different options and buying them ourselves. That'll be taken care of later. Now, the one thing that I probably should have had already open on my computer screen so I could see it is the PDF files, so I can check Barbarian starting scores. There's a few things that need to be notified immediately. These little saving throws right here, these need to be done based on what is given as the templates in the book, the player's handbook for 3.5. Right now I have a PDF file open. I'm trying to look into it. Give me a moment because I didn't have this preset because I thought I could remember this part. Come on. Basically, how this base attack bonus, which is your accuracy, and also your... Oh, here we go. Alright. Give me a moment. I can't really see my computer screen. Okay. So, Barbarian, as a main melee fighter, on his base attack, will get a +1 immediately. So you put a 1 there. Base attack bonus is never going to be in negative, so the number is always positive. There we go. His base save is increased only on the fortitude with a +2. All the other ones get no bonus. Now the way saving throws work is you take the modifier. Fortitude takes Constitution, so you add a 3 to your Constitution if using my template. Dexterity is reflex saves, which is the second save, which gets a +1. Wisdom / will saves, take the Wisdom modifier and you add a +1 to that if using my template. So using my template, this Barbarian has a +5 to his Fortitude and a +1 to Reflex and Will saves. Now, when a Barbarian rages, they get a +2 to their Wisdom / Will saves, so temporary modifier is a 2. Now, this means that in the instance of rage, his Wisdom modifier, or I should say Will save modifier, is not 1, it is actually a 3. So if you were to need to use your Will save for something, you want to hope that you're already in rage, because then you'll have a much higher chance of getting it. Now, spell resistance. We Barbarians do not have spell resistance from start, and a lot of creatures do not. So this is going to be kept blank right here. The grapple is taken by your strength modifier, which for us is a 3, plus the base attack, which is a 1, so we get a +4. It also would include any feats that you select to empower it, or your size mod, and since we are medium size, we get no modifiers from that. We also take no negatives as a bonus. The attacks are decided upon what items you have. If you want to, as a monk, you can put unarmed strikes, since monks are usually adept with that. Now, the next / longest bit is the skills, which is pretty much on a D&D character sheet the entire right side. Now, this might look a little scary at first compared to everything else, but when it's broken down, it's actually not as bad as you think. But before we hit that, there are a few things I didn't notice, such as the top right here that says speed. Barbarian speed is increased by their races +3. So if I was a dwarf, I have 20-foot speed as my race, because dwarves are a little bit slower as small guys, but as a barbarian, I would have 30-foot. Humans have a 30-foot speed, so barbarian that is a human has a 40-foot speed. Now, speed in D&D refers to how far you can move across squares. So let's say this little D4 right here is me. I'm standing here, and with my 40-foot speed, just by simply walking, I can move 8 squares. So from base 1, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whereas a regular human can only move this far compared to me, 30 foot. And then the example of a dwarf, they can only move this far. So human barbarian, a regular human / dwarf barbarian, and a dwarf. These are all examples of how this would work in D&D. So barbarians, yes, we are pretty good scouts, and we also can take hits pretty well too. Damage reduction. Barbarians will take damage reduction at later points in the game. I believe they do start at level 6 or so, is it? Is it 6? No. No, wait. Yeah, it is. Level 6. I got that right. Level 6, we get a -1, so all hits would do 1 less damage. But this is a level 1 barbarian, so all he would get is his fast movement, illiteracy, and rage 1 time a day. Now for the skills part, because I'm going to cover this whole front in one run. Skills. The barbarian's basic skills are climb, craft, handle animal, intimidate, jump, listen, ride, survival, and swim. So across this whole list, you want to go for the climb spot and fill in this little box right here to the right with a dot. Craft. You can choose whatever craft you would like before putting points into it, but you don't have to decide immediately because you won't have to put points into it. Handle animal, which is right here. Intimidate and jump, which are literally next to each other. And then listen, which is right here. and finally ride, which is here, then survival and swim. Now, each of these skills that a barbarian gets can decide what they do as a player. Increasing your climb won't increase the ability to, say, climb up a simple wall. No, climb would be used in an extreme example, such as trying to scale a fortress, trying to climb out of a pit, etc. Usually in most campaigns, unless there is, you're heavy in like a fortress, climb is not really needed. Craft can be chosen between a multitude of things. One thing barbarians cannot craft is alchemy. All magic users can use alchemy, but you have to be a magic user in order to use alchemy. Otherwise, you cannot use it. That's simple. Oh, excuse me, bit of a sniffle there. However, we can choose woodworking, metalworking, weapon working, etc. as our craft. If you were to choose something as, woodworking, you'd be able to do something like make a nice little fancy wooden sculpture. Choose metalworking and or weapon making, then you can repair / make weapons with work on it. Handle animal. This would be handling an animal such as to help you with a ride check, like trying to handle a horse before trying to ride him. Intimidate. This is one of the good things a barbarian can have. Intimidate can allow you, when you're epic level, which is level 21 and up, to scare enemies away and avoid conflict. This might be good if your party is in danger. I personally would put a lot of points into Intimidate. Jump. This would be doing something like jump a ridiculously high amount, like trying to jump up to the top of a tree and grab a piece of fruit or something. Listen. This can be something as simple as listening through the crack of a door, or listening for an owl trying to catch its prey. Listen can usually be used to help you find enemies before an encounter, so listen's another good one to put points into. Ride. Now, if you know for a fact in your campaign there is a very low chance of finding horses, put almost no points into ride. You will not need ride in this case. If there are very few horses and or rideable animals, you will not need ride. I guarantee you. It's pretty much a given, guys. And then survival and swim. Survival can be something as starting a fire or trying to skin an animal. Personally, as a barbarian, I had put a lot of points into survival, and they had actually come in use. From the very first day that we were playing, I had to skin a wolf, and then the next day I had to start fires because we were on the trail. Excuse me, burp. Sorry about that. Just ate breakfast. And then there was also another instance where we killed a dragon at level 4, because there was a party of 5 of us, and I skinned him and got his leather as armor. So survival, if you know you'll be fighting some very intense animals or very skinnable animals, you can skin them and get their hides. So not a bad idea to put points into survival. Swim. This would be swimming up a current or some extreme amount of swimming force. Usually, unless there's a lot of water in your campaign, not going to really need swim. So swim and jump are kind of circumstances, so as, climb, jump, swim, all really kind of iffy depending on your campaign. Now take an instance where it's a typical campaign where you pretty much just travel the world, fight here and there, skin a few animals, etc. If it's a basic campaign that doesn't have any extreme amounts of water, fortresses, etc., I would put most of my points into listen, intimidate, and survival. So, now here's how skills are decided. We humans... The way skills work is you take your intelligence modifier plus a certain number and then multiply it by another one. Barbarians have a +4 to their skills immediately. So since we have a 0 in our intelligence, we add 0 to 4, and this gives us 4. Now as a human, that number goes up by 1, so instead of 4, it's a 5, if I am correct on this. I'm fairly sure I am, because I can't fully remember that part of the book in my head. Again, I'm still kind of starting. I haven't even been DMing for a full year. I'm actually trying really hard on this to remember this from my memory, because I'm using my laptop as my camera. So this would mean that a barbarian would have a 5 modified times 4, because most of the classes from start are multiplied by their class number, intelligence modifier, and 4. Or maybe different for different classes. I don't really remember, because I've only actually had to go through creating a barbarian from scratch. I really don't do skill points because they don't come up as enemy monsters. So this would mean that we take 5 and multiply it times 4. Now that very easily is decidable upon becoming 20, even if you reverse the numbers. So even if I am wrong on that starting number as a human, then it doesn't matter for this specific character. So this means that we have 20 skill points to put into the whole list. There's also a limit at level 1 where you can only put 4 into skills that you have from your class, and if there are class skills from another class, such as another craft or appraise for items, balancing checks, etc., they get cut. This number is cut into half and rounded down. So if it were 5, it would be 2. If it were 7, it'd be 3, and 6 is 3. You kind of get the idea from that. So this means that these skills you have to choose to put points into, I would usually say the ones that are in your class, because 1 point represents 1 point within them. Cross-class costs double points to put 1. So for each cross-class kills, let's say for whatever reason I want to put points into concentration, to get a 1 rank, I have to put 2 of those 20 skills in. So they're not really worth it unless you have an extremely high cross-class limit. Not to mention an extreme amount of skills, such as a rogue, but rogues get a lot of skills, so that still wouldn't be needed. Also, not to mention too, it's kind of hard to see this part too, but across the lists there are, right here, these modifiers. These are representative of the modifiers that we have done. So things like climb get a strength mod, things like craft get an intelligence. Now, as we've said before, barbarians are pretty dumb, so things that require intelligence checks you want to put the most points into. Usually, most skills will require the uses of intelligence, wisdom, and charisma checks. Strength, dexterity, and constitution, not too much, because those are kind of more for melee and physical prowess. Intelligence, wisdom, and charisma modifiers are usually those used for how your character behaves, etc. Such as a high intelligence score, you're very book smart. High wisdom score, you're very knowledgeable. High charisma, you're very likable. That's why sorcerers are always liked, even though we barbarians don't really like magic users. So this would mean that we really want to put points into, like I've said, Intimidate, because we don't have that high of a charisma score right now. Listen, because our wisdom score is actually still low. And Survival, because the wisdom score is still low. So, how are we going to decide this? Well, since we have 1, 2, and 3 skills that we want to put in, we want to put max points into them because we've decided those will be our main ones. So I'm going to, in the ranks part, which is in between these 3 listings on the D&D paper, the middle one, put 4 on Intimidate, 4 of them on Listen, and 4 of them on Survival, which means we now have another 4 that we can place somewhere. So, in the instance that I think there's going to be no other very heavy melee guy, and no one who will probably have metalworking craft, I'm going to put 4 into craft and then choose weaponsmithing. There we go. So, now we have used our 20 points in total, I do believe. No, I'm wrong. Actually, we do still have points. So, since we still have points, we can put them into cross-class. And since Spot's another one, I'm going to put my other 4 to get a 2 in Spot. Now, Spot and Listen and Search, those ones usually don't... those ones are actually kind of not half bad ideas. Same for Heal. If you don't have a healer on your team, Heal's another good one to put in. But I think most parties would have a Cleric or Paladin. So I don't find Heal the best choice, in my opinion. Because I'm going to imagine a party where we have a Barbarian, a Paladin, or a Cleric, a Ranger, and a Sorcerer or Wizard. So very simple on that. Now, the biggest trick is to take your modifiers and then add them to the ability modifier list here to get a final. Now, because I'm only giving you guys a tutorial, you don't have to do this, but I would recommend putting your ability modifiers through the entire list, because they don't change too often until you reach every level 4, where you get a +1 to put into your score. Now, unless it were something like the 17, it's not going to increase. If it's something like the 16, you need to wait till you're level 8 to increase that. So, putting that into that makes it very easy to do your skill checks fast. It's recommended by me and probably most DMs because it makes their job a little simpler. But, for the purpose of just showing you all what to do, I'm simply going to show the modifiers for the scores that I have. So, in the weaponsmithing, intelligence gets +0. Intimidate, charisma gets a +1. In the Spot, wisdom gets a +1. In the Survival, we get a +1. And in the other Listen, well, Spot and Listen, they both get +1s. So since these are the ones we put ranks into, weaponsmithing only gets a +4 because we have no intelligence at all. We're pretty dumb. Intimidate gets a +5 because we have the 1 rank from the ability score. And the same for Listen, and the same for Survival. Spot gets a 3 because it's cross-class. So, now, we have points in our skills. Now, finally time to get cracking on the initiative, AC, and attacks. AC is decided upon what items you'll take as armor, and initiative is decided upon your dex modifier plus any miscellaneous, including improved initiative feat, and attacks is decided upon what items. The back side of the character sheet isn't always really looked at by most metal fighters. Mainly, it's used as spell listings, which is that entire part right there, which is hard to show. Now, spells are all not used by any barbarians. We have no innate natural magic uses. So this means that we do not have any use for magic. So simply, you can just write none and point at it. Feats and special abilities are used by all. Well, special abilities isn't used by all. Some fighters, in fact all fighters, don't have any special abilities. Therefore, it's not useful. And the same for sorcerers and wizards. They only get one special ability, which is their familiar. Languages. These sometimes can change depending on some classes. Some classes give you anything, weird, and some classes don't get common. But as a human, we have common, and since we aren't smart enough to get any additional languages, we don't get any. Now, wizard, sorcerer, or druid, we get another language. Sorcerers and wizards get Draconic, because Draconic is the language of most magic, and druids would get Druidic, language of druids, because druids have their own fancy language. How special. For the purpose of simplifying this, I can go into detail about this another time, because this is a 30-minute video now on D&D tutorials. I'm going to simply take the basic package for barbarians, which is leather armor, a great sword, and then standard adventuring gear, which, it's kind of easy to figure out. Also, our special abilities, I can't forget this. We get fast movement as our first one because of that plus 10 to our speed. There we go. We get illiteracy. All barbarians are illiterate no matter what. We can try to learn how to read, but it would be kind of bad if I remember correctly. We also get our rage one time a day at this point. Not going anywhere farther. For feats, humans get an immediate bonus. I would personally say put improved initiative, because initiative can give you the quickest turn in combat. All these feats can be selected yourself, because feats you have the ability to choose. And from the standard starting package, we would get weapon focus with great axe or great sword. Since I think the great axe would be kind of bad for new beginners, let's go with the weapon focus. Great sword, which I suppose is a G sword. Now this will go in the other positions. Armor, you put down leather, which is known as a light armor. There are 3 types of armor: light, heavy, medium. Medium and heavy will reduce your speed as if you were going over your light load capacity. AC bonus, you get a +2. Dexterity can give you a maximum of +6. Check penalty, nothing. We don't get checked against it. If we could use Arcanic Magic, it would be a 10% increased failure percentage. Speed, we keep original speedage, so therefore we still have our fast movement. They weigh 15 pounds. And they have no special properties at this moment. So, now to finally do the AC. So AC is decided upon your armor bonus, which is a +2. Your dexterity modifier, which is a +1, and a shield bonus. Barbarians don't usually use shields, so there's no bonus there. So, totaling all of that together, we would get a total AC of 3 + 10. All AC is increased by 10 automatically. So it's not the end of the world if you don't really have a dexterity score. And there you go. That's how you did the AC. Now, last step is the initiative, which is your dexterity modifier and any miscellaneous modifiers. Improved initiative gives you a +4. That's why I suggested it, because now, even though we have the 1 dex, we have a 5 initiative. Initiative rolls are quite handy, because they can make you either the last person to go or the first. And for our attack, barbarians also have a short bow. Short bow is a ranged weapon, which I will put at the top, because we really won't be using. Well, no, I'll put the greatsword at the top. So putting the greatsword at the top. So you write the name of your attack in the attack space. The attack bonus for a greatsword is the base attack plus your strength mod, which is a 4. On damage, it is 2d6 rolls plus, so these 2d6s, your strength modifier times 1.5. So 3 is 4. So it does a +4 on the damage. The crit, you roll a 19 or 20 on your accuracy, and it'll do double damage if you confirm it. It cannot be thrown, and it is known as a slashing weapon, or cleaving, really. Consumes no ammo. And a short bow. The attack bonus of this is decided by your dexterity modifier and attack bonus, which is a 2. Damage is a 1d6. And since it's not composite, there is no modifier to take. Critical is just simply ×2, I do believe. No, ×3. Range, 60 feet. And type range, because it's a ranged weapon. You can't throw a short bow, and its ammunition is arrow. And these little squares you just put once, it takes one. So, there we go. That is how you make a character sheet. I'm just going to let you guys get a better look at this thing. Now, if you wanted to copy this as a template for your Barbarian, feel free to do that. Pretty much just pause the screen and fill in any blanks that I did not do for you. So, there you go. This has been Supermetroidfan, and I've taught you all how to make a Barbarian at level 1 for Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. If you had watched the whole tutorial, thank you very much, and I hope I was able to help you with the creation of your own character. Not all characters follow this template, so if you're going to make something like a wizard or sorcerer, do not follow what I did. I'll put up more tutorials later if this video gets a lot of viewage. So, from me to you, I hope you all have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye!